अभी ऑनलाइन आ गया है क्या? हाँ बस आ रहे हैं अभी। तो सर का आवाज एक बार देखना है। अभी देखो हमारा स्टार्ट हो गया ऑनलाइन। हाँ ठीक है।
आप वीडियो में देख रहे हैं, वीडियो में देख रहे हैं हम।
ठीक है सर, अभी आप सर बिल्कुल डायरेक्टली आपका मतलब स्टार्ट कर दीजिए और जब आपका होगा तो प्रेजेंटेशन ओपन कर लीजिएगा सर।
ठीक है, तो अभी क्या करेंगे?
लैपटॉप में माइक्रोफोन यूज करना, मतलब ईयरफोन जो है आपका वो लैपटॉप में लगा के रखना सर।
हाँ ठीक है ठीक है।
ठीक है सर। और सर थोड़ा इंट्रोडक्शन अपना देखें सर। हाँ ठीक है, मोबाइल काटो दे। ओके सर, मैं काट रहा हूँ सर मोबाइल, आप लाइव है। ठीक है सर।
ठीक है ठीक है।
ओके ओके सर।
Hello. Good evening to all of you. Today, the topic of discussion is climate change and its impact on the biotic community. Climate change, a bitter truth of the society, a bitter truth of the nation, a bitter truth of the country, a bitter truth of the planet Earth. Now, question arises that why the change term has been incorporated in the climate change domain. When you speak about the change, I mean to say that change can be both in the positive and in the negative direction. When the change is in the positive direction, then we call it global warming. The temperature rises. Say, for example, you are having a graph with 0 at the x-axis. If the temperature rises in the positive direction, that means the heat generated is more, you feel more heat, and it's known as global warming. But if the temperature goes below the 0 x-axis, then it is known as global cooling. Global cooling may be a new term to all of you, but 9 years back, it happened in California that there was a massive snowfall, and that was global cooling. Suddenly there was a massive snowfall. Now, question arises that why this global warming and global cooling takes place. What are the causes behind it? The main causes are the extraterrestrial factors I mean to say the natural factors. And these include the volcanic eruptions, the plate tectonics, which encompasses phenomena like mountain building, continental drift, etc., etc. Then atmospheric reflectivity, which is known as the albedo, and other atmospheric chemistry. And of course, the solar output, the Earth's sun geometry, all these are the natural factors. And they have considerable weightage in the phenomenon, in the domain of climate change. Just this is one of the important natural factors which is causing climate change. Just few days back, on 20th May 2020, there was a huge cyclonic storms in West Bengal and Bangladesh, which is known as Amphan. These storms devastated the life of millions in the state of West Bengal, and properties were lost. Similar type of storms also occur in the sun. And these storms are the magnetic storms, and the damage is caused in terms of sunspot. So if the magnetic storms come and hit the sun surface, sunspots are created. In that case, the solar radiation do not come with a full extent to the planet Earth. And therefore, what happens? The solar radiation is minimized and global cooling takes place. So this is one of the causes of climate change, and we don't have any control over it. The other cause of climate change are the plate tectonics. You know that there are some 7 plates on which we are thriving. And these plates are in continuous motion, colliding with each other. If they clash with each other, some friction, some heat is generated. And that causes a warming effect to the ambient environment. Now, this is a confirmation. I have told you that climate change is caused by the movement of the plates. Now, the movement of the plates, to show you, let us go back 200 million years ago. There was no USA, there was no China, there was no India, there was no France, there was no UK, no Germany, no countries. Only 200 million years ago, there were only 2 supercontinents, Laurasia and Gondwana land. Now what happens, when with the passage of time, this continental drift started, and the ocean starts intruding into the continents. So we just see 80 million years ago, India is here. So 200 million years ago, there was nothing. 80 million years ago, we got some fragments. We got Indian subcontinent. So this proves that plate tectonics is not a myth. It's a reality, and it's going on. And it's having a regulatory impact on the climate change. This is the third cause of climate change, the albedo. What is albedo? Albedo is the reflectivity of the Earth's surface. Suppose you go to Himalayan glaciers. You see the sunlight falling and 100% reflection is there coming to your eyes. In that case, what happens? Your eyes get burnt. You have to wear goggles to protect your eyes. So this is albedo. 100% reflectivity is there in the snow-peaked mountain. But if you come to the seashore, if you come to the sea beach, what happens? The marshy lands, 40% reflectivity, and 60% is absorbed by the marshy vegetation. So what happens? This 60% is retained, and that is re-radiated and causes a humidity and warming effect. The third cause of climate change is the volcanic eruption. We know that when volcano erupts, what happens? Huge amount of lava, heat, different types of gases are emitted, and there is a chance of global warming. Participants, it's not the fact, it's not the global warming, but it causes global cooling. It causes global cooling. Just if you see that these are the haze which comes out in the form of volcano, and therefore what happens? Oh, and therefore what happens? You know, I will request the organizer to just not to give control to me. I will request the organizer to give control to me. So this is actually the haze which causes the climate change, because the haze is a substance. The haze is a substance which does not allow the solar radiation. It's like a mirror. The solar radiation is reflected back to the space, and therefore global cooling occurs. You see, this is the structure of the haze. When there is a volcanic eruption, when there is a volcanic eruption, there is an emission of gases, there is an emission of heat energy, and it reacts with the water vapor of the atmosphere and forms this haze, the layer. Now, these are the man-made factors for the climate change. Now, these man-made factors include buildings. These man-made factors include change of the land use pattern, shopping malls, industries, urban industries, then various types of tourisms. All these are caused at the expense of the vegetation, which otherwise could be a sink of carbon. Just imagine, in the city of Guwahati, 1,83,531 motor vehicles just in 4 years have increased. Just look at the website. You can go to your website and see how much increase is here. In a city like Guwahati, this is the increase. Then just think the city of Kolkata, Bangalore, Chennai, and Delhi. Because of this, the emission has increased, and there is an increase of 21% over a period of 50 years. This is another source of man-made emission from the industries. But it is a word of hope that the global energy-related CO2 emissions have come to a flat, stagnant. It is roaming around 33 gigatons. Maybe the effect of COP, maybe the effect of Kyoto Protocol, but it has become almost stabilized. This is one of the biggest hope of this century. Now, urban development. A time was there when there were green plants, vegetations, but now you see the congested roads over here. If these green plants could have been there, then it would have been a potential sink of carbon. The question of carbon dioxide rise and spike does not arise. But we, the civilized person, have changed the dimension, have changed the land use picture, and this is the fate now. Now you see how the carbon dioxide have increased from 373 ppm to over 400 ppm since the last few decades. Just to see that the rate curve is increasing, and the rate curve is gradually it is going, and it is increasing, and it has crossed 400 ppm. Today, the average concentration of carbon dioxide, atmospheric carbon dioxide, is somewhere around 414 ppm. And you know what is the safe level of carbon dioxide? It is 350 ppm. Just imagine, 350 ppm is the safe level of carbon dioxide, and it has touched 400, above 400 ppm. Now, what happens when carbon dioxide comes in such a huge amount? It is a heavier gas. Perhaps you read in class 8 in secondary level that in order to collect the carbon dioxide gas in the laboratory, it was done by upward displacement of air. That means the carbon dioxide is a heavier gas, it settles down, the air is driven up. Similarly, when the carbon dioxide is a heavier gas, it forms a blanket around the Earth. And the solar radiation, which comes in the form of short wave, after getting reflected, becomes long wave. They cannot escape into the space, and they are trapped, resulting in the rise of temperature. Just you see the temperature, it is gradually getting red. You see the graph over here, the more it goes becomes red, the more is the rise of the temperature. This is the data up to 2018 collected from NASA. And this rise of temperature has caused a havoc effect on the biotic community. Today, the topic of discussion is impact of climate change on the biotic community. And these are the effects on different sectors of our life. I'm not going in details, but I will just tell that these are the major effects of climate change. The sea level rise, the temperature rise, the acidification of ocean water, alteration of salinity, coral bleaching, on agricultural, on fishery, and on human health, there are considerable impacts. If you just see this, 1979, you see the mass of the ice in the Arctic region, and you compare it 2000, it has decreased. And because of this decrease, the ice mass are melting. And as per the law of conservation of mass, when a substance from solid to changes into liquid, the mass remains same as per the law of physics. And therefore, this ice goes into the ambient seawater and results in the rise of the seawater. The seawater is increasing throughout the globe at the rate of 2.50 millimeter per year. And in West Bengal, in Sunderban, it is 3.14 millimeter per year. You can ask me the question that when the world average is 2.50 millimeter per year, why in West Bengal, Sunderban, Delta region, it is 3.14 millimeter per year? It's a very important issue. Coming to the next slide, this is one of the effects of the climate change. You know, the polar bear, they require pack of ice to live. And if the ice melts, then they might eventually go extinct in the wild. Sea turtles, which come to Indian subcontinent in Vitarkanika of Orissa and in Sunderbans from the Pacific Oceans after crossing thousands of miles. If they find their sea beach, their nesting ground is underwater, do you think that they will survive? I don't think so. So this is the way how the climate change is gradually wiping out, is gradually deleting, is gradually eradicating this unique biodiversity from our planets. This was a very unique project taken by CSIR. 15 institutes of CSIR, along with me, took part in this biggest project on climate change in 2015 to 2017. We were taken to Lakshadweep Island, and we found huge quantities of olive ridley turtles coming in this beach of Lakshadweep, adjacent to the corals. And if they lose their hatching ground, if this beach goes under the water, do you think that we will get, our next generation will see this scenario? This is a pathetic side of the climate change. This is another phenomenon. Underwater diving, if you go, you will see the coral reefs. These are underwater paradise. The coral reefs, which are colorful because of the presence of the symbiotic algae zooxanthellae, which impart color to the corals, they are gradually getting slow poisoned because of the temperature rise. This is known as coral bleaching. This is not an albino. It is bleaching because due to rise of the temperature, the zooxanthellae cannot accommodate, cannot adapt with this rising temperature. And therefore the corals become white. These colors, these beautiful colors, will become just white. That's why the term bleaching has been used. You see my hands, I have taken some of the samples from this after an underwater diving in the Lakshadweep Island in 2017. And this shows that how it is affecting the biodiversity, it is affecting the biotic community. Another important thing, when the carbon dioxide is increasing, then what happens? It reacts with the seawater, with the estuarine water, with the brackish water, with the deltaic complex water to form carbonic acid, which is lowering the pH of the seawater and the other types of water. This is known as the acidification. Acidification does not mean that the pH of the water is going below 7 and it is becoming 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 like that. Acidification here implies that the seawater's pH, which is usually 8.30 normal, is going below that. And if it goes below that, then what happens? These are the pictures of the oysters. The oysters, which is a palatable dish in South Asian countries like Korea, Japan, China, and also in various countries, like various states like Goa, it is also consumed. Even in Calcutta, the big hotels, they are serving these dishes. The oysters made up of calcium carbonate shells, they are under the phylum Mollusca class Bivalvia. They have got 2 valves, and the beautiful flesh inside is the meat is very, very palatable, full of protein and minerals and calcium especially. Now, this is the shell and this is the flesh. Now, if the pH goes down due to acidification, then the shell starts dissolving and it becomes thinner and thinner. This is our sites in Sunderbans. You see, we have demarcated Sunderbans into 2 regions. This side is the western side, where you see this blue water over here coming through Ganges, Hooghly estuary and meeting in the Bay of Bengal. This is the Bay of Bengal. But this western side is having connection with the Gangotri Glacier. The snow melt water is coming over here, regulated by Farakka barrage, and then coming through this place and coming to this Bay of Bengal region. So naturally, this area is hyposaline, salinity is less. But the same Sundarban, if you see this side, just you see there is no head-on connection. There is no supply of fresh water. So only the water it is receiving is from the Bay of Bengal during the high tide. So I've given the cross to show that this is a hypersaline, and this cross indicates that there is no connection of fresh water from the head-on region. So the same Sundarban is having 2 different features. One is a hyposaline picture, the other is a hypersaline picture. Now this Sundarban is having 34 varieties of mangroves. And this hyposaline sector is actually helping to survive Sundari, the Heritida forms. It cannot survive in high saline region. This is the adaptation. So we are losing Sundari very much from the central part of the Sundarbans. So I have divided our entire study area, research area into western and central part with 2 different chemical, physical, and geological characteristics. If you see the water temperature in both the sectors, in the western and central part, both are rising, confirming the effect of climate change in both the sectors. But because of the melting of the Gangotri Glacier, recession of the Gangotri Glacier, which is at the rate of 23 meters per year, this is connected. This is connected with the western Sundarbans, because I have told you, if you just go back to the map, you will see that this Gangotri Glacier is giving water over here. So what happens? This salinity, which we are looking, it is going down. The red one is the salinity is going down in the western sector, whereas in the central sector, it is going higher and higher. So getting 2 different chemical pictures. Now, this is another important effect. You are aware that Sundarban is famous for Royal Bengal tiger, Panthera tigris, and they are very fond of fresh water. The forest department dig ponds of fresh water. After rainwater harvesting, they stock the fresh water over here, and the tigers come to drink the fresh water. Now, if there is no fresh water over here in the central part, then what happens? This is the area where maximum tigers live, adjacent to the forest, the reserve forest area. Then what happens? They will go back. They will just pounce into the nearby villages. Maybe this is the cause why there are so much tiger intrusion in the nearby villages in recent times. Because they are not getting the fresh water which they are fond of. This may be an important part of the research. Now, question arises, so far I have told about the negative things. Is there any way out? Well, we are very optimistic. There is green energy. There is geothermal energy. There is bioenergy. There is wind energy. There is solar energy. But these energies are green, no doubt, but at the expense of money. You know, due to COVID lockdown, how much GDP has gone down, not only throughout the world, but also in India. So at this point of time, thinking of this geothermal energy or any other types of energy like ocean thermal energy conversion, OTEC, is a luxury for us. Therefore, we must go for a sensitization for an afforestation program. The administration people, the scientific members, the activists, the media, all of us will work in a coordinated fashion to go for the green. You know, we have estimated that 1% exhales 1 kg of carbon dioxide per day in the course of the respiration. And we have estimated that 1 gram of carbon dioxide is absorbed and sequestered by 1 square meter of grasses. So, if you have got 4 members in your family, then you need 4,000 square meters of grass or vegetation to make it carbon neutral. This is one option. Just go for the green and make your house carbon neutral. Make your house fresh. Make your house oxygen rich. This is an important methodology where you often go to the field and calculate the biomass of the mangrove vegetation, considering the mangrove trees at the cylinder. You know the cylinder formula, volume, pi r square h. And if you multiply this volume multiplied with the density of the tree, you get the biomass. And there is no rocket science behind this. 50% of the biomass is carbon. So you can easily estimate that how much carbon is absorbed by each tree species. We have done some results with some of the mangroves, and these are some of the results. It will not be of interest to you, but just for the sake, I'm showing you that Soneraceae apitala, Exocaria, Avicennia alba, Avicennia marina, and Avicennia officinalis, these are the 5 dominant mangrove species in Sunderbans, and they are absorb profuse amount of carbon dioxide. In West Bengal, the carbon area is 2120 kilometers square is the total mangrove area. It is having a carbon of 11,32,800 tons of carbon. Estimation has been done with the funding of Ministry of Earth Science, Government of India. Since 2009 to 2012, this estimation was carried out. And this is equivalent to carbon dioxide equivalent of 41,54,736 tons of carbon dioxide. If you convert this biomass of carbon into carbon dioxide with factor multiplying with 3.67, you can say that how much carbon dioxide equivalent is there in the forest itself. Now, I personally believe that the present talk will generate controversy, confusion, and issues of thought. But I believe that this can churn your brain. The canvas is in your hand. You are the participants. You are the people who can form the network in a coordinated approach and can change the configuration of the earth. It is you who can decide that what will be the fate of our next generation. This is a carbon science network which we can develop, taking Maharana Chaudhuri in the apex. This network will connect people like Pallavi, who is doing in a remote place on the climate and fishery, Jayestu in Madhya Pradesh is doing a lot of work on wetland. Rupali, who is the pioneer in PGPR. Prosenjit, who has done several works on the seaweeds and has made yogurt, then cakes, ice cream, cookies from the seaweeds. Bulti is doing marvelous work on carbon and microbes. Namonita is doing in the Sunderbans, regularly visiting and going for the carbon sequestration of the mangroves. Then Pavel is there on fisheries. Shumoli is there on working on acidification. Dr. Shambhu is taking charge of the entire legal aspect. Shauli is excellent in GIS. Sushmita is also there seeing the entire holistic approach. Dr. Zaman is coordinating the entire thing. Russ from USA is taking the awareness program. Urpita is the CEO and director of one of the NGOs going for the grassroots level. Samimul is doing on the ecosystem services. Sana Ahmed is doing remarkable work on the preparation of sanitizer from the floral component and mangroves. I am also there. So people are there scattered all over, throughout the country, throughout the globe. We have to develop a network. And then only we can form a coordinated approach, an approach to combat the climate change. I think I must not go much beyond the time limit. Thank you, all of you. Thanks for your cooperation. So I will now request, if you have got any question, you can ask me, and I will tell you to send your mobile number as well as your email number, because my last message was to develop a network. If you want to prosper in the domain of the environmental science, two messages: either qualify net or develop a network. For the net, we are giving a very unique online tuitions for every chapters, for every sections. You can contact Maharana Chaudhary for this. He is on the apex, and to build a network, we are there so that we can exchange our ideas, exchange our papers, exchange our views, missions and visions. Thank you, all of you. If you have got any question, I'll be happy to answer. So I think that I must end over here, and with a good wish to all of you. And at the same time, I must tell that please keep a link. If you want to keep a link, that will be the best time. And I think that my topic of telling with you, interacting with you, will be successful. Thank you, all of you. Jai Hind.